What is up, y'all? Welcome to another Zwift race breakdown. This is one I wanted to break down because I do so much on this channel talking about races that played out in a weird way, or I'm trying to find some sort of weird strategy or something unique to talk about. But this is a race that follows the bog standard Zwift format that people love it or hate it. This is what everyone talks about. A Zwift race is sit in the blob, don't get dropped, and then sprint at the end. But even when that outcome is more or less inevitable in the race, there's some stuff you can do in terms of having a plan and in terms of using your teammates to your advantage that can sort of tilt that outcome in your favor a little bit. So that's what I'm going to talk through in this video today. So the orange messages in the chat box here behind me are from my teammate Alex, and he's identified that I might have the best 15-second sprint power here. I assume he's looking at Zwift power there, but that's going to form sort of the basis of our strategy. And I think what happened here, we have a running Slack channel where everybody's kind of posting what races we're doing. So either he just saw that in the Slack channel that I was doing this race, or he saw my sign up on the companion app and decided to jump in here with me. As we come out of the start gate here, I'll talk through what this race is and how that's going to affect our plan for the day. So this is a 3R, Team 3R London race, classique flat course, couple tiny kicks, but really nothing that's going to split the field up. And another big thing about this race is, as you can see, all the categories start together. And in fact, the A category starts in the pin that is the farthest back. So I believe like B, C, and D categories all started in their own pins at the same time, but farther forward. So the first thing I wanted to do there was just get through the field before any splits form. And you can see my teammate Alex right there next to me. He did the exact same thing. This was actually a day or two before the new pack mechanics were dropped and a day or two before our new kits were dropped. So that's why Alex and I are in different kits there, not the in-game restart kit. But that's a crucial move in these races that start all together, is to get to the front or just get as far forward as you think you should be. If you're not in the A category or you're not looking for the front of the race, you sort of need to find the spot in the bunch that you think you should be at before things start to split up. It's much easier to move through a group where you're basically going draft to draft to draft to draft than it is to let those gaps form and then jump across them in no man's land. When you're in between groups there, you've got no draft and you're going to have to work a lot harder. Now, there is one major caveat to that strategy of moving up early while the group is still pretty bunched up, and that is that you need to watch out for the sticky draft, which the sticky draft is when the game basically thinks you want to be drafting someone that you are actually trying to come around, and maybe you're putting out a few more watts than them, but not enough that the game knows where you're trying to go. It'll briefly stick you to the back of someone rather than having you ride around them or through them. It slows your avatar down and it can kind of impede your progress. Especially, you'll see that kind of logjam effect coming into the base of a little hill, especially something that kicks up pretty quickly. Anything where avatars slow down, it'll get kind of crazy. Now, the way to avoid that sticky draft, in my experience, is just to really commit to the effort. So for that first 30, 40 seconds, maybe even a minute, I was standing up and going well over my FTP as long as I was moving forward, trying to make sure I didn't get caught behind somebody that was going slower until I found the front, and then I could kind of back off and just match speed with everybody. If I get stuck now, I'm not trying to move up. I can see the front. That's really my goal, is to get to where I can see the front and monitor it, and I'll be on the right side of any splits that go out, hopefully. So the sticky draft is something that Zwifters have always talked about, but I've never heard ZHQ actually acknowledge its existence or talk about how it works until episode number 95 of the Zwiftcast. There's a guy who works for Zwift on there, and he talks through it. He calls it draft lock. Apparently it's called draft lock in official Zwift parlance, and that's because it's locking you into someone's draft. Anyway, if you want a deeper dive on that, go listen to that episode of the podcast. So let's get into reading the race a little bit. A group is going real fast. We're going 52 kph on the flat right here. Even on the uphill, we're maintaining almost 50 as it kicks up just a little bit. This is a course, though, that doesn't have any steep ramps. It doesn't have any gravel sectors. It really doesn't have any of those crucial points where you can get a separation and cause some splits. Even if those splits come back, maybe you drop some people off the back. We've also got a field that is pretty well attended and evenly matched, which means that you can't split it up just by solo attacks back to back to back, because there's so many people that can cover those. There's so many people that can slot into those gaps as they form. You're just not going to get anything out of it. And we also don't have enough people. You know, if you have like 10 riders in the race, then your team can kind of take turns attacking with attrition. And each time one of your guys attacks, you make someone else chase it. And not the smartest strategy on Zwift, where the blob speed is a little bit overcooked, but it is something that can cause cause some attrition off the back and thin that group out a little bit if you want to sprint from a smaller group. But this is not the case in this race. We've just got me and Alex. We've got a really flat course. It's also not long enough. This is about a 45-minute race. So this is sort of like the standard Zwift race format. This is what everyone talks about a Zwift race being. They're like kind of on the short side compared to a real life race. 45 minutes is a little bit shorter, even the most crits or cyclocross races. It's all together. It's very fast. It's just kind of medium hard the whole time, and then you sprint. So with all that in mind, Alex and I are going to start forming a plan. Jumping down the road a few K, it's mostly been just sitting in at this pace, just sort of right at the low end of sweet spot kind of. And, that's what these races are to some degree. But right here, Alex is direct messaging me. We probably should have been on Discord, but for a race that is, this level, it's kind of okay to use the text chat, I think. Alex is calling out some people who he thinks might go, when they might go, and we're starting to talk about the plan. And basically, there are two guys in this race that it seems like he's raced with before, or he's just aware of them. They're known quantities, and apparently they like to try and get away in the last 2 kilometers. So that's something we got to be watching out for, something we got to be planning for. And we also had Oliver Dowd from the team was not racing, but he just caught it on the Twitch channel, which if you want to find all of us on Twitch, we've got a new team Twitch that hosts all of us. So you can go to the Restart Racing team page and you can see everybody on the team who streams to Twitch. You can see whether they're live or not. You can find all of our accounts there if you want to race this stuff live and chat to us live. But Oliver was chiming in on the chat, and he also let us know about a sprinter that we need to be watching out for who's from his local area. So with all this in mind and sort of our basic skill sets in mind also, I've got a pretty good 15 seconds on me. Alex has a little bit longer, like a VO2 max, 1 to 5 minute effort type power. We're going back and forth about what to do. Jumping ahead again, it's nighttime in London now, and Alex and I are starting to talk about the finish, what we're going to do, what the plan is. And the idea is Alex is going to use that VO2 max to go hard in the final Ks, and I want to sprint from almost exactly 275 meters out because I know my 15-second power. I really know exactly how well I can do from a certain distance. So the plan is Alex is going to go a little earlier, and I am going to sit into whatever group chases him. And either the plan is that group will let him go. Everybody's going to look at each other, and he is going to go for the win, or some people are going to drag me back up to him, and then hopefully that'll wear out a couple of the people who were maybe thinking about getting away. Or if they go away before Alex does, Alex's effort will actually drag the group back to whoever the flyers are. But basically this way, we only have 2 of us, so we have like the 2 main scenarios covered, which are a small group gets away and everyone else looks at each other waiting for the sprint, or it's a bunch sprint and then I'm fresh for the bunch sprint. But what this does for us is it allows me to not have to question, like if those 2 guys do attack in the final kilometers, I don't have to question, should I chase this now? If I don't chase this, is it getting away and that's the end of my race? I know that Alex is going to go from a certain point. I know about how hard he's going to try to go, and I can trust that it's probably going to come back. Also, if it starts to go away, if Alex starts to go away and the group is not chasing, I can say, that's my teammate. If he wins, mission accomplished. So again, to win the race, you kind of have to be willing to lose the race. So just to recap the specifics of that plan, Alex is going to go from the 180-degree turn that is 1.3K out from the finish. He's going to go all in there. I'm going to just sit in the group and do as little as I can in the group that is chasing him. And basically, he doesn't have to worry about saving anything for the bunch sprint because he knows I'm back there saving it. And I don't have to worry about covering any moves that go between 2K and the finish line because I know that Alex will be up there. So we each have a job to do, and it's time to just execute on that. So as we come into the final kilometers, I'll talk through how this can be adapted because you're not always going to have one teammate. Occasionally you might have more often than not you're racing by yourself. I think one important point to take away here is to kind of know what your strong suit is, know what your ideal finish is, and sort of commit to executing that. So for me, even if Alex wasn't here, I think what I would probably do in this scenario is say, if there's a group of less than 5 up the road, I'm not going to worry about it. And I'm going to sprint from the biggest group at 275 meters away. And so if solo riders, ones and twos are getting off the front in the last 5K, I got to kind of commit. I've already got it in my mind that I'm going to commit to that main group and then sprint from 275, because chances are it's probably coming back. This is still Zwift, but without Alex here, I can't really trust that that's going to happen, and I don't know exactly who's going to pull it back and what their skill set is and all that kind of stuff. Now, in the inverse, if we have more teammates here, we've got even more cards to play. So maybe we would send someone else up the road earlier and then have Alex sort of counterattack, and that would increase the chances that Alex gets away. Or maybe we would have someone who just sits on the front. Maybe we'd have a couple people sit on the front for the last 5K and do hard pulls rather than having him get away. Maybe we would have like Alex is going to go at a defined point and have another guy chase down individual flyers. Each person you adds another scenario that you can sort of have like predetermined and pre-covered. And maybe what you do, what we've been doing in a lot of the RGT races, the Echelon series specifically, is maybe having one guy like Hal is the guy who's setting a hard tempo or getting off the front in the last lap. And then the other 5 guys on the team, we're all just all in for the sprint, but all of us have slightly different sprint power profiles. So like some guys are going from 500 meters, I'm going from 275, but that just increases. We've been calling it buying lottery tickets. Like that sprint finish is kind of a lottery, and each of those guys you have, that's another ticket you're putting in the hat, another chance to get your number drawn. So here we are at the 180, 1.3K out from the finish, and right on schedule, Alex attacks right here and gets a pretty good gap.
And this is the way he exerts his tactical authority. La course en tête. Control the race by taking the lead.
Go, 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 bud. Yeah. Perfect.
So there's a little bit of scrambling behind, people trying to get on terms here, the group kind of lining up behind him, and things do speed up. I think Alex was slightly disappointed here, maybe that he didn't get a little bit bigger gap than this, but this is actually perfect for me. This is keeping it just fast enough that no one else is getting away. I'm sitting a few wheels back in the group. I'm drafting more than almost anyone else here, and I know exactly the point I want to go from. So either Alex is going to hold this gap to the finish or I'm going to get it. And I know we come around this corner here and then the sprint is getting pretty close. So at this point, I start watching the kilometers to go really more than anything else. And I can sort of rest assured that I don't have anything else to worry about. Alex still has a pretty decent gap coming into the finale. I'm looking up here at the kilometers to go. And right when I see 275, I'm all in. This is all in. I look down and I'm pretty much done paying attention to anything. This is just full commitment to the sprint.
Ooh. Started from a little far back. Perfect work from Alex, though.
So second place, pretty happy with that, especially for a random race that I was mostly using for openers for the ERL series. But my only mistake there was starting from a little farther back in the group. I actually ended up getting the green jersey for the sprint segment there, meaning I actually went through it the fastest of anyone in the group. So the guy who beat me just started a little bit farther forward and held on to that sprint. So takeaways here. Number one is, go ahead and envision your ideal finish. What do you want to happen in a race? And then know that unless something totally beyond the pale happens, that's your sort of plan A. It's easy to get caught up if you don't have a set distance you want to sprint from or a place you want to attack from, or your plan could even be like, I'm going to wait for someone else to go, and as soon as I see one other person jump, then I'm going to sprint. But whatever that plan is, know what you want to happen. And unless there's some other scenario that plays out that's way off base from what you were planning on, just commit to that and follow it. And then the other is, even in these races that are sort of the standard Zwift formula, there are some things you can do to increase your chances. It's not like all tactics are out the window. Just because a standard road breakaway is not going to go away and stay away, that doesn't mean there's just no tactics to be had at all. There's still stuff you can do to mix it up, stuff you can do to increase your chances. So yeah, if you've found this helpful or interesting, subscribe to the channel, and don't forget to follow us on Twitch if you want to see this stuff live. And I always like to interact with the chat while I'm doing those things, so you can ask me some questions live while I'm racing. I'll try and answer you unless I'm attacking in that exact moment. Thanks, and I'll see you guys next time.